today.
Have you got other movies to do this for, or were you just me and Richard today?
Yeah, I'm doing Robbie Williams, but that's for an album.
Oh, yeah, not a movie.
No, yeah. First movie today. Right, are we good?
We are.
So, Jude, I will level with you. It's the kind of film I thought, when I went to see it, I thought, I don't think it's going to be my cup of tea. It just something about it, I didn't want to see it, in truth. But when I did see it, I thought the characters were so vivid, they just popped out the screen. I found it quite poetic as well in many respects, aside from the profanities and the violence. When you read the script, were you pleasantly surprised as well? Did you think, oh, this is a bit different from the average British crime caper?
Well, as soon as I read it, I realised it wasn't a crime caper. To me, I think people will be mistaken if they think it's a kind of gangster movie. To me, it's a movie about a bloke who is a crook rather than a gangster. He's a petty criminal who has delusions of grandeur. And what I got from reading it the first time was just I was genuinely shocked at some of the stuff he was saying and doing, and that was a surprise because it had been an awfully long time I'd been genuinely shocked on reading a script. There were beautiful rants, pages of rants coming out of this man's mouth, and I was laughing and disgusted and shocked by what he was saying, and then on second reading I just sort of thought, God, yeah, this is someone I want people to love, because I sort of found a heart to him very quickly. And aside from that, there was an obvious challenge in sort of bringing him to life.
Because I was going to ask you that a bit later on. For you then, he's a lovable rogue rather than this sort of loathsome character.
I think he's both. I think he's lovable, roguish, loathsome, funny, sentimental, violent, smart and witty, incredibly stupid. I mean, he's like all of us, just with the volume turned up very, very, very loud. And he's someone dealing with life as it's kind of been dealt him. He's made bad decisions, but he's also been given some pretty hard knocks. And there are people like that out there. I remember growing up with people who had loads of promise, and I know now are not up to very much, or are not really made much of their lives, or have been, and a lot of that's because of environment and circumstance, and of course a lot of that's to do with themselves. So he's just a big personality, and it's, if you give him a chance, there's also a story in there of a man that will sort of, I think, win you round eventually.
He's quite physically removed as well from yourself and from what you've played, the characters you've played before. Was an element where you thought, I don't really fancy this, I don't really fancy him to put on the weight?
No, once I started to do it, I was, that was it, and you say yes to something and the thing's set up, you're doing it, and then there's no looking back, and you have to make sure it works, and you have to make sure you get, I like to give my all, so I had a summer of letting everything go, because it seemed right that this guy had kind of let himself physically go. I mean, by the end, I was kind of quite keen to get back to my usual sort of life of relatively healthy living, and get away from Dom's extremely unhealthy way of living. But once I was in it, was in it.
Was the character, from how the public perceived you, quite suave, debonair? He's none of these things. Was it a release, like being like this guy, being able to scream and shout?
Yes, of course. It was a wonderful release. It was a massive cathartic experience. Yeah, but there are sides to him that are like me as well, just like everyone else. And it was nice digging those up and letting them out to play for a bit.
And talking about digging things up, let's talk about burying things. Is this true? Did you actually bury?
Oh, did I bury Dom? Yeah. Well, by the end of it, I was kind of over the smoke. I don't really smoke, and I was smoking a lot to make this film, and drinking a lot, especially Coca-Cola and alcohol-free lagers, and I was just sick of all of it. And so we had this funny little ritual where we put all the pieces and shaved off all the excess hair and what have you, and put him in a little box and buried him. So he's out on the Isle of Man somewhere.
And just
if anyone wants to go and
find all
exhume
this
him.
stuff. Just finally, Oscar buzz. There's a little bit of chat about that potentially you could get a nomination.
Well, you're the first person to say it to
I've
me.
read it, and
I would be very surprised. You think they'd let Dom Hemingway at the Oscars?
I'd love to see it, to be honest. Let's hope so. Cheers.
I tell you what, if I get a nomination, I'll go as Dom.
Perfect.
That's how unlikely it is.
Jude, thank you
Take
very
care,
much.
mate.
Cheers, mate.